Welcome to Short Stories. Today's short story is called Nikita the Tanner. It's about a humble hero who defeats a vicious dragon. It was recorded by Russian author Alexander Afanasyev in the 19th century. It was later translated by Leonard A. Magnus and published in English in 1916. You can find it on the Project Gutenberg website. Before we jump into this exciting tale, I must first tell you the vocabulary and example sentences. After that is done, I will read the story. Then I will finish by asking 4 listening comprehension questions. Let's begin. Vocabulary. Flourish. Flourish. The country's economy is flourishing this year. Be more than a match for someone. Be more than a match for someone. The Kansas City Royals are more than a match for the Cleveland Guardians. Viciously. Viciously. The man was viciously attacked by the lion. Debris. Debris. Debris of the ship was scattered across the Pacific Ocean. Tannery. Tannery. This tannery produces the finest leather. Javelin. Javelin. The soldiers threw javelins at the enemy. Can't take it anymore. Can't take it anymore. This music is terrible. I can't take it anymore. Furrow. Furrow. The workers dug a long furrow. Now the story. Over 800 years ago, the city of Kiev was the capital of a prosperous kingdom. The town's merchants grew rich from trade, and the town's craftsmen grew rich from selling things to the merchants. Everywhere, people were flourishing. That is, until the arrival of an unwelcome guest. It was a chilly day in February when the dragon arrived. It was a huge dragon, about 20 meters long. It had razor-sharp claws and wings so large that they blocked out the sun. The people were terrified. The beast flew into the middle of town and started spewing fire everywhere. It then marched up to the king's castle. The king and his guard stood ready to defend themselves. The dragon stopped, stood up on 2 legs, and said, "You call that an army? Ha!" A puff of smoke escaped his mouth as he laughed. The king stood proudly and replied, "We're more than a match for you." The dragon laughed again, only this time fire, not smoke, came out of his mouth. The king and his guards leapt to safety just in time. The monster viciously attacked the castle. The archers tried their best to shoot the dragon, but the arrows all bounced off its armored scales. Then the dragon reached inside the south tower, which contained the royal apartments. "The princess!" shouted the king in despair. The dragon grabbed the princess in his talons and flew away. The next day, the entire kingdom was in mourning. They did their best to keep their spirits up while they cleaned up the debris created by the dragon's assault. But the saddest one of all was the king. He shed many tears over the loss of his only daughter. The guards sent scouts to find the dragon's lair. They came back and reported that the dragon was not too far away. It had made a nest in the east of the kingdom, occupying a large chunk of land. The king's generals and advisors then began discussing what to do about the dragon. Many ideas were proposed, but none of them had any chance of success. "If only we knew the dragon's weakness!" exclaimed the commander of the royal guards. Just then a little white dog started barking and nipping at his heels. "Go away, you stupid mutt!" he muttered. Then one of the other guards recognized the dog as the princess's pet. "Look," said the king, "there's a note attached to the dog's collar." Indeed, there was a note. It was written on a scrap of clothing with the princess's own blood. It read, "I'm safe for now. The dragon's only weakness is a man named Nikita." "Who's Nikita?" they all wondered. Then the king snapped his fingers and said, "I know." The next day, the king and his guards visited the tannery of Nikita. Nikita was well known in Kiev as the strongest man in the city. When the king knocked on the door to the shop, Nikita was folding 12 hides at once. The king told him about their plan to fight the dragon, and that they needed his help. When Nikita heard this, he was so shocked that he ripped the 12 hides in his hands. He said, "I swore that I would never fight again." The king and his guards begged him to fight the dragon, but he still refused. The next day, the king decided to try to persuade Nikita again, this time with the help of the city's children. The king assembled nearly 5,000 children in the town square. When Nikita saw them, the king said, "If you won't do it for me, would you at least do it for them?" Nikita looked at the sad, sweet faces of the children of Kiev. "How could I say no to such sorrowful, innocent eyes?" The king clapped his hands and escorted him to the royal armory. Nikita was a simple man that preferred to use simple tools. He refused to wear the armor that the king offered him. Instead, he made his own armor out of tarred hemp. "It's more heat-resistant," he explained. For his weapons, the tanner planned to use his tanner's knife. But after much nagging, the king eventually convinced him to accept one special weapon, a javelin that was given to the king as a gift from a foreign dignitary. With these tools, Nikita the tanner set out to face the dragon. When the dragon saw Nikita standing before the entrance to his lair, he refused to budge. "Come out and face me, you coward," goaded Nikita. The dragon still didn't move. Nikita kept hurling abuses at him until he just couldn't take it any more. The dragon emerged from his den with flames streaming out of his snarling face. Nikita moved quickly. He dodged the flames and struck the dragon with his tanner's knife. It didn't make a dent. Nikita was shocked. The dragon laughed and said, "Is that all you've got?" Nikita fought hard, but none of his blows could get through the dragon's armored scales. "The javelin!" shouted the king. "Use the javelin!" Nikita took his advice. He hurled the javelin right at the dragon's stomach. It stuck, but the dragon pulled it out. "That was a good hit," said the beast, "but you'll need more than that." Nikita noticed that when the dragon pulled out the javelin, it took the scale with it. Now the dragon had a weak spot in his armor. Nikita aimed his knife right at that spot and struck hard. The dragon cried out in pain and fell to the ground. Before Nikita could give the monster the final blow, it pleaded with him. "Stop, please. It's clear that we are the two strongest creatures in the world. Let us divide up the earth. You may live on your half, and I will stay on mine." Nikita, who was wary from fighting, agreed. "Very well," he said, "but we must draw boundaries." So the tanner took a plow that weighed 1,000 kilograms and harnessed it to the dragon. The beast pulled the plow all the way from Kiev to the Caspian Sea, leaving behind a large furrow. When they reached the shores of the Caspian, the dragon wiped the sweat from his face and said, "Now we have divided the entire earth." Nikita smiled and said, "Yes, but we need to divide the sea too." So Nikita prodded the dragon to pull the plow out into the middle of the sea, where he drowned and was never seen again. When Nikita returned to Kiev, he was given a hero's welcome. The crowd cheered his name and sang his praises. The princess, who was now free, gave him a big kiss on the cheek to say thank you. The king offered him many gifts, but he refused them all. After the celebrations had ended, he went back to his tannery and continued his life as he did before. Questions. Number 1. Who attacked the kingdom of Kiev? A. Nikita. B. The king. C. The princess. D. The dragon. Question 2. Who convinced Nikita to fight the dragon? A. The king. B. The princess. C. The children of Kiev. D. The dog. Question 3. What weapon did the king give to Nikita? A. A sword. B. A spear. C. A tanner's knife. D. A javelin. Question 4. What gift did Nikita get for killing the dragon? A. He got to marry the princess. B. He got a ton of gold. C. He was given the keys to the city. D. He accepted no gifts.